I've got a very special guest, the legendary Frank Holmes. And Frank, I want to start this off with, we've known each other for well over a decade. We've traveled the world together. And what I admire so much about what you do and where I want to be one day where you're at this stage is you're not one of these established titans in the industry that is set on his ways and he thinks the innovation and all these new ideas is, science projects. You push yourself to learn and learn from the best within any industry that you're not an expert in. And then because of that, you become an expert and you invest and you profit and you kick ass at what you do. So explain to me your mindset, how you push yourself to be better every day.
Well, I think I just blessed. My mother was always reminding me to be curious and to learn and improve. No matter what it is, you can always just get a little better. And the operative word of being curious means you have to take initiative and you have to ask why and who, and you just, rather than being pushed to learn, you're curious to learn.
Yeah.
And I think it keeps you young. And just the idea of going into the blockchain world, well, I listened to my sons, in particular one, and then my godson, and they're just hammering, Uncle Frank, Dad, what do you, wake up, don't become a dinosaur. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you go back and you remember what your mother said. Yeah. And that pearls of wisdom, and then away you go, and I'm in a blockchain.
Basically, don't be a dinosaur. So many of the guys that we work with, we've talked about it even yesterday, they're just, you shake your head and you go, man, this guy's talking about things as if it was 10 years ago. The world's changing. When I remember one night, me and you and many other industry well-known pundits, we were in Albania searching an oil well, and it was a long day of a site visit, and it was a long night, and I go, who wants to come up and wake up early, go for a nice run? We love to run through the town, Rocky style, and we get to meet the people, and you're the only one who showed up at 6 o'clock in the morning. It's that you push yourself to spend time with the up-and-comers.
Spend time with you. And at the same time get a cultural...
That's how we really got to know each other.
And get a cultural experience.
Of the place that you're analyzing.
Weren't you shocked how many people were working out in the morning?
Yeah, at that park.
It's amazing. So it was a very positive experience being with you, and then that at the same time, and cleansing the body to get more energy for the next day.
That's right. And where everyone else was groggy, we went to breakfast and we were showered and ready and did our workout and everything. As we were rushing to get our airplane connections, you go, Marin, look at all these high-end dealerships, the luxury brands, the Louis Vuitton and all that. And you were talking about all this stuff. I went, wow, I've been through this airport 40 times this year and I never once thought of it that way. When you look at these trends and all that, how do you get yourself to educate yourself in a new sector?
I think I would come back and stay with young people and find out what young people are doing and try to be as non-judgmental as possible.
That's the big key.
That's the hardest part. And just if you're curious, you're not non-judgmental. You're trying to explore to discover. So if our job is funding people to go to explore in incredibly risky areas to discover something, then we have to do it with our minds.
That's right.
And our hearts. We have that sort of same feel, or why should we give them capital?
That's right.
And so that's what drives it. And what the other part was the Quant World, how young people are taking the digital and how the use of the cloud and how cheap it's become, and then the new algorithms. Oh, it's young people.
Well, we talked about that on one run about 4 years ago, and I'm not shocked at all that you got into the blockchain world, because you were talking about how you have to compete with these quants and how much they're playing the market. So it's such a natural segue for you. And I want to talk about a very private experience that we had yesterday where, and I wish I recorded it for my audience, but you and Peter Schiff kind of had an interesting head-to-head discussion, disagreement, debate, whatever you want to call it.
Oh, he was.
Yes.
I was just
and that's what I want to say. You wanted to talk and explore and look at different avenues, and he was just hammering the same point over and over, and he wasn't listening, and I went, wow, there's a major difference between the two. So where do you see first cryptos and then the blockchain world? Give me your view.
Well, before we go there, I think what's really important for us in our investment world is the significance of the quant world and the fusion that happened in 1985 with psychology and finance became behavioral finance, and now we have all these Nobel laureates, and it was created at MIT, and I think Yale's now the dominant place for it. But that idea of the fusion of two disciplines, and the quant world takes the fundamental analysis that we grew up with and kicking the tires, and now merging that with quants, and it's called quantamentals. And it's just embracing that. And now last week was announced in the Financial Times that there's over $1 trillion in quant funds, and their average hold period is 7 days.
Think about that.
And
the
their
whole
turnover,
value investing world's upside down now.
it's upside down. But they look for mean reversion and they look for momentum. It's all physics, laws of physics.
It's all algo searching with spiders
And so once you
computing
know
with
that,
supercomputers.
you understand the volatility. Like when El Dorado collapsed 27%, well, based on their headline news, CIBC did this research a long time ago on case studies, the stock will take 2 weeks to fall 30%. It just happened in 2 hours because the quants have already modeled that and they immediately start going short and they'll cover right away. But it's for other people who are stunned, how could anyone read the reports, put all that data into a model and then sell? And so now I understand capital markets and the volatility a lot better. And that allowed me to segue into blockchain technology. It's really a subset of fintech, which is then a subset of this crowdfunding and venture capital money that's going into those categories. So we have $1 billion a year going into artificial intelligence. We have $1 billion a year going into blockchain technology. And something's got to come from it. And it's now been going on for about 3 years. And the crowdfunding is $50 billion last year. And it's not in the securities market that we're used to. So that gave me the interest of blockchain.
So what advice would you give the subscribers of mine? You're a survivor. You've survived now almost 40 years in this resource industry, in the speculative junior markets, whether it was in the oil patch or the resources or even, any of these investments. What is the keys to survival in your opinion? That's
a great question, and it comes from an old biblical statement that for the feast of 7 years, save because the famine will be coming. And you have to have your own reserves to weather through the storm. And then there's the omega trade. Now the omega trade is that you and I know, if we have enough cash, these things will all fall way below value and we can buy them and then they surge right back. But you have to have cash to have that omega trade and the cash to weather through the storm. So I think that's what's really important, and it's all biblical. It's history.
So what I loved about getting to know you and Rick over the last 15 years is you guys were kind of competitors and you're kind of a strong, alternative to all these fund managers in the industry, but you're out there, you're willing to talk. You don't just show up at the talk at my conference and then slip out the side door, which many of these fund managers do. They don't have the time for the retail, they just want the money from the retail. How does someone get to know, how do I learn more about Frank Holmes and what Frank Holmes is doing? Where do they go?
You go to usfunds.com and they subscribe to Frank Talk. And I have a blog that's 180 countries it's read in, and it pushes 40,000 readers. And that's a way to get a feel for what we're doing. That's the simplest way. And watch these interviews. I think it's very important you're the Charlie Rose of the investment world, Marin. And it's just recognizing that capacity to watch those interviews. I think a lot of people don't watch those types of interviews.
And yet it's easier today than ever to watch them.
And TED Talks are phenomenal. They're always 18 minutes. And
so much value condensed now because you're competing with so many other alternative distractions.
And you're a math discipline guy, and there's lots of compelling math and physics showing up on the words we use. So if we use the word I hate something, it's a low vibration, it's a low frequency. If we say the word love, and that relates to the love trade for gold, which is 60% demand for gold. Well, love resonates at a higher frequency. This is all physics. So how do you take the heart and the emotions and put it together with physics? It comes from tacit knowledge of you and I running. So we can look at our models, but we have to go and meet the people and interview people, kick the tires, and I think that's the real key. People come to these conferences, they can learn so much by walking around and hearing the different stories. That's what's important for your listeners.
I agree. Frank, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Keep doing what you're doing. It's great watching it.